Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 2 for today, August 8th, 2012. All the links will be posted in YouTube's video description if you'd like to check those out. Alright, so we'll just continue where we left off with basically Syria and segueing into Turkey. And we'll get into the Kurds basically having their own state almost. So it's here, confirmed Turkey running proxy invasion of Syria amidst hosting foreign fighters seeking to enter Syria, trucks and weapons to rearm terrorist groups. So the Washington Post just published an article with a very misleading title, Turkey a hub for Syrian revolution as illegal border crossings point abound. And I remember trying to find that article where they said they were going in there, Turkey, the rebels, and they were recruiting people, i.e. terrorists, to go back in there and wreak havoc against the Syrian government. And it says here, in which it describes the Salafi Muslims who have come to offer help from the countries of the Persian Gulf regime arming and joining the so-called Free Syrian Army. The article also claims weapons are ferried into Syria, delivered by Turkish military trucks and picked up by fighters on the other side of in the dead of night. It says here, a more apt title would be Turkey hosts invading Saudi and Qatari mercenary army. Finishing up, this confirms earlier reports featured in the New York Times and the Washington Post that not only are the Gulf states of Saudi Arabia and Qatar funding and arming militants via Turkey, but that the United States is coordinating the logistical aspects of the operation as well. They're talking about the U.S. CIA and British MI6, I believe it is. So Turkey sets up secret base near border to equip Syrian rebels. It says here, Turkey has set up a secret base near the Syrian border to send military and communication supplies to armed groups fighting against the government of al-Assad. According to a Qatari source, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar are sending weapons and communications equipment for Syrian rebels via the base, which is located in southern Turkish city of Adana, about 100 kilometers from Syria's border, Reuters reported on Friday. Turkey is also training the rebels near the Armenian-populated city. The armed forces of Turkey have launched military exercises in this city, and it says here, an Armenian-populated Syrian city lying 1 kilometer off the country's northeastern border. So the trainings involve 30 tanks, armored cars, and missile stations. So this kind of confirms what we were talking about before. In the dead of night, said the Turkish forces are reportedly active in the night hours too. The Russian radio channel reports that the trainings aim to demonstrate force to the Kurdish rebels. A convoy of Turkish military forces briefly enters Syrian basically territory, the town of Jarablos. More than 100 Turkish troops armed with thermal rockets and sophisticated weaponry on Tuesday entered the town in the Kurdish region of Kobani. It says here, the contingents of these Turkish soldiers reportedly left for their bases after an hour. Meanwhile, Turkish media are reporting that about 40 Turkish troops have been detained inside Syria. A spokesman for the Kurdish militia in the border towns accused the Turkish forces of supplying arms and ammunition to insurgents fighting against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government. And shifting to Lebanon, because I've covered this as well, this is a key player too. The United States is seeking a buffer zone in North Lebanon, says Arab Democratic Party spokesman says. So their spokesman wants to set up a buffer zone in the northern port city of Tripoli to provide support for the terrorist Free Syrian Army. So this individual, Ali Fadad, also said he censored the visits of U.S. Senators John McCain and Joe Lieberman to Lebanon in May. Basically, McCain and Lieberman, you probably know, have called for providing weapons for the Syrian opposition. When Lieberman visited North Lebanon, violence erupted here, and when McCain came, the clashes erupted again. He also pointed to a recent CIA report which said that the North Lebanon area is the best environment for creating a buffer zone for the terrorist Free Syrian Army. So this article is from July 29th. Like I said, I've kind of had that saved. Then I came across this and looking for new news. August 7th, United States Navy commander arrives in Lebanon. Beirut, the commander of the U.S. Naval Forces Central Command, Miller arrived in Beirut Tuesday morning aboard a U.S. military craft. He said he's coming from Bahrain. He's expected to spend only a few hours in Lebanon. And let's not forget the big exercise with over, 10,000 special forces and just forces in general in Jordan on Syria's border. Now we have this. Jordanian Syrian forces trade fire as tensions rise along the border. Says the forces traded gunfire along the shared border early Friday morning in what marked the latest escalation of tensions between Amman and Damascus, DPA reported. So it's like I covered in the last video. It says here that it started when Syrian forces opened fire on a group of some 300 refugees attempting to flee into Jordan. Now these innocent refugees, are they like the peaceful activists that now turn into heavily armed terrorist groups going around wreaking havoc in Syria? Are these 300 refugees? Are they 300 terrorists? Kind of like the 40 terrorists that strayed into Syria's border, right, from Turkey? So, because we remember that the rebels actually were shooting, the NATO-backed rebels were shooting civilians, executing them. So it's hard to get a good grip on what's happening here, especially when there's not really much media inside Syria. So, except for maybe the, Assad's government, and of course the BBC, which I just covered in the last video, which was they were riding with Al-Qaeda. So, when the West gets news, it's coming straight from Al-Qaeda, the terrorists. So, saying, like I said, God willing, we'll take down the bloody Assad regime, God willing. And that's all you hear, right? Oh yeah, they were crying, they were angry because they weren't getting enough weapons. So Turkey's leader says they may launch operations in Syria to stop the Kurdistan Workers' Party. So taking the basically the Zionist tactic of, we're being attacked, they're attacking us. It says here that that the PKK, backed by Syrian President Assad, are seeking to infiltrate Turkey from Syria, and that Turkey may launch military operations in Syria to stop it. That's right. I remember in one quote he said, "We have the inherent right." So the question is Turkey's pursuit of Kurdish rebels a pretext for NATO intervention in Syria? So Turkey has warned that it may take action against the Kurdish rebels operating north of Syria. It goes on and says that the strong statement from the Turkish Prime Minister comes after the reports that the Kurdish militants linked to the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party has taken control of 5 cities along the Syrian-Turkish border. It says no one should attempt to provoke us. If a step needs to be taken against the PKK, we will not hesitate to take it, he said. So this all goes back to what I originally covered a couple months ago, which was Lamb, this individual, stressed that the leader of Turkey has earlier hinted that they may invoke Article 5 of the NATO Charter, which considers an attack on one member of the bloc to be an attack on all. If Syria pursues across the border with Turkey, i.e. Turkey is just basically going in Syria's border, remember, one can imagine that the Turks will say to their NATO partners, look, this is an attack on all of us, we've got to go in, and that might give some excuse. You can check this article out. I'm going to keep moving, but it's just a breakdown of the Arab Spring in Turkey. The disintegration of the country is becoming a reality. So it says here, Assad has made a tactical move. His army left cities and towns in the northwest of the country, I think they're talking about Aleppo, effectively handing over control of it to the Kurds. So in their hands crossed all state agencies in the borders areas with Turkey. It says they hung their flags out there with 12 Kurdish organizations merged, creating a Kurdish national Mali. So according to the British newspaper The Guardian, Syrian Kurds are now given the opportunity to defend their home country. And of course, Turkey will take a lot of effort in order to prevent the union of Kurds living in Turkey. And so basically what they're talking about here is granting the Kurds in Syria their own autonomies. So, and they're going to get it. There's a better chance of them getting it from Syria than from Turkey. It says here, a U.S. oil giant signs deal with Iraqi Kurds. Defies central authority. Chevron has signed a deal with the Kurdish regional government, becoming the second U.S. oil company to secure oil agreements with Kurds in the conflict with Baghdad. And Iraq's Kurds signed 2 energy deals with the Koreans. This is from August 7th. Iraq's self-ruled Kurdish region has signed a deal with Korean companies to construct 2 power plants. It's part of an oil exploration deal. Don't know if you remember this from the 28th. Kurdish forces prevented Iraqi troops from disputed border area. That's right. Iraqi Kurdish security forces prevented Iraqi government soldiers from reaching a disputed area that borders Syria. So Baghdad sent the Iraqi army division to protect their border, but it's a sensitive area. Both the Kurds and Iraqi government claim the territory. So most of you have heard of the March of Dimes to bring awareness of the eugenics that needs to be carried out on young infants. We have the dancing for drones. That's right, Hillary Clinton was dancing for drones, hopes for improved drones to find a dead person known as Coney, basically for the, I guess you call it recolonization of Africa. And she actually made the remarks in Uganda. She watched a small U.S.-made drone that the Ugandan military uses in Somalia to fight the Al-Qaeda-linked militants. So, actually, it's the CIA, most of them coming out of Ethiopia, those drones that are killing those Al-Shabaab fighters. But it segues nicely into drone news. The European Union plans drone network to nab illegal immigrants. So the EU is kind of like the North American Union. It doesn't give a flying crap about immigrants and stuff like that. Just ask Britain about immigration and how much their government actually gives a crap about them and their sovereignty. They don't. So it has to do with spying. Oh, I'm sorry, surveillance. That's right, not spying. European Commission's released a proposal to deploy drones across the Mediterranean Sea to catch illegal immigrants. The surveillance spying effort is part of a $410 million package to bolster EU border security. I'm going to move faster here, so stick with me. Links will be posted. Homeland Security expands use of drones on the border. This is in the United States, July 5th, 2012. So it's just our government, too, acting as if they give a shit about our borders. From July 11, 2012, closure of border patrol stations across 4 states trigger alarm. And actually, it was going to shut down 9 border patrol states across 4 states. So it triggered backlash from local law enforcement, members of Congress, and border patrol agents themselves. But what do? Avatar officer installed at Arizona-Mexican border station. A new kiosk is expected to streamline applications for frequent traveler benefits, freeing up human officers to catch drug smugglers. They're talking about entities that compete with the CIA and the U.S. government in their own drug trade. But remember, Homeland Security expands use of drones on the border. So it's far away, it's not in the United States. Actually, they've already killed the first Americans by drone. They've actually already arrested the first Americans via drone evidence in the Dakotas. They also are practicing or using drones in the Dakotas with lasers. So Lockheed Martin's Stalker drone stays airborne for 48 hours using laser power. All-seeing eye gets literal. But they're not just in the air, they're also in the water. Navy testing ocean drones in I'm not even going to butcher that bay. So it's an innocent little playground, this Naval Undersea Warfare Center in Newport. They're working towards the goal of achieving a squadron of self-driven undersea vehicles. So just like the drones with the laser power running for a long time, these things could be out for 70 days. And a couple stories you're probably already aware of. Skype is making chats and user data more available to police. That's Skype. And then on Twitter, they're giving the police information on your account. So now Twitter's basically ratting you out, and if you say something in public, like those Olympians and that, you can get actually fired or let go. So is not joining a Facebook a sign you're a psychopath? So some employers and psychologists say that staying away from social media, i.e. you want to keep your privacy, is suspicious. It's funny because ex-Facebook workers, refugees from Facebook, questions the social media life itself, so maybe they're sociopaths. And if you are at the Olympics, you better smile. It says here they arrested a fan for not smiling when he had Parkinson's disease. You may laugh, but this is because they use now behavior detection, which is used in airport security. It's behavior detection. Police are also using predictive analysis, i.e. pre-crime, to prevent crimes before they happen. And it's funny because that guy wasn't smiling, but Queen Elizabeth was picking her nails when Great Britain marched into the Olympic Stadium. So you have the Pope in 2011 endorsing the Robin Hood tax on financial transactions in the rich. Now the Prime Minister in England is urging for the Robin Hood tax. And John Lovitz is getting death threats over his comment on Obama, who claimed that the rich don't pay their fair share. And the government's coming after Social Security benefits for those who are falling behind on their student debt, which is why Homeland Security is preparing with exercises at the office.